Japan. March 11th, 2011. Emanating 43 miles off the eastern coast of the Oshika Peninsula. One of the largest earthquakes in recorded history, a magnitude 9.0, shakes the Earth. The massive movement of two tectonic plates instantly moves the entire Japanese mainland some 8 feet, ripping down buildings, setting fires, and killing thousands of people. But the worst is yet to come. The earthquake also triggers enormous tsunamis. Waves as high as 130 feet begin smashing ashore with devastating consequences.
One wave in particular struck the Fukushima Daiichi power generating plant and overwhelmed the safety systems, which caused the plant to enter a critical phase and release radioactive material into the atmosphere and into the water.
With the nuclear power plant's reactors melting down and radiation seeping into the atmosphere, the authorities evacuate the region. The only people who remain are employees who struggle for days to prevent a larger catastrophe from occurring. But according to eyewitnesses on the scene, these workers were not alone.
There were UFO sightings reported in some significant numbers in that area in the weeks and the days leading up to the earthquake and tsunami. And there were a number of UFO sightings reported in the immediate area directly afterward.
And this suggests the possibility that extraterrestrials were involved in stabilizing that situation. Because had that Fukushima plant melted down, it would have made a large swath of Asia uninhabitable for a very long time.
Is it possible that extraterrestrials became aware of this meltdown and they did something to lessen the impact of this disaster and ultimately save mankind from what could have been a much worse cataclysm?
Could extraterrestrials really have been present at the Fukushima meltdown? And might they have helped to prevent it from being an even more catastrophic disaster? Ancient astronaut theorists point out that similar accounts of strange objects seen in the sky were also reported 25 years earlier during the meltdown at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Ukraine.
A number of witnesses reported that there were UFOs hovering around the power station, and that even beams of light were coming down from these UFOs and doing something to the nuclear power plants and keeping them from having a much worse meltdown than they did have.
Some have speculated that the UFOs that were seen during the crisis may have been perhaps protecting us, trying to stave off a horrifying nuclear explosion, or if not protecting us, at least protecting our world.
Was it simply good fortune that the nuclear accidents at Fukushima and Chernobyl weren't far more deadly? Or is it possible that the UFOs eyewitnesses spotted were responsible for averting these catastrophes when humans were powerless to do so? Ancient astronaut theorists believe these encounters weren't random occurrences, but part of an extraterrestrial agenda that has been in place on Earth for thousands of years.
It appears that there is an ongoing plan in place, a hidden hand in history that is manipulating events that we are interacting with an alien civilization, and that we are experiencing the fruits of what they are offering us because our history is being intelligently guided and directed to steer us towards a particular outcome.
But if alleged alien encounters really are evidence that extraterrestrials are intervening in human affairs, what is their purpose? While the United States officially denied investigating UAPs until 2017, some nations had always been ahead in their approach to the subject. Leading the world in UAP research is the South American country of Chile. In 1997, the Chilean government officially instructed air traffic control and military personnel to create the Committee for the Study of Anomalous Aerial Phenomena. The committee studies all reports of UAP activity by commercial, military, and civilian pilots. One of the most well-publicized was a shocking incident that occurred in 2014 when Chilean naval officers flying along the coast of Santiago captured video of a UAP.
There was an incident in 2014 where a military helicopter got video of a strange object. It kind of looked like a rocket with some sort of plume behind it. And they said they were at about 4,500 feet.
They have 9 minutes of fairly clear video that exists on this. The Chilean military studied it for 2 years, and they were not able to identify this at all.
Chile, like many other South American countries, seem to be far more open to the idea that there are objects coming into our airspace.
I think one of the reasons why South American countries are more open-minded about the UFO and the extraterrestrial question is because it is part of their cultural heritage. In fact, Peru and Bolivia, they're treasure troves for the ancient astronaut theory. The whole pre-Inca culture and even the Inca culture spoke of these beings of light that descended from the sky. And so these countries essentially grew up with this intrinsic knowledge of someone up in the sky.
In addition to South America, now other parts of the world are also starting to disclose information about UFOs. Governments are openly investigating encounters reported by both civilians and military personnel. But many researchers believe the most noteworthy country to join this international effort is also one of the most skeptical: Japan. In 2018, the Japanese government released an official statement denying the existence of UFOs.
The Japanese government made a sudden press release that said they would not recognize any UFO encounters or extraterrestrial presence on Earth or in the airspace of Japan. I thought this was very strange, as we had already interviewed 2 pilots who had several incidents and testimonies that they gave us regarding various pilots' encounters in the air and from the ground over the years when they were active in the military.
Mamoru Sato, a former wing commander in the Japanese Self-Defense Force, said that he regularly heard stories from other pilots as well as civilians about UAP sightings.
Some people said, "There's something strange up there." There were a lot of opportunities to see inexplicable things, such as UFOs, that were monitoring the sky and training in the sky. And it was my subjective view that we should make a report and organize these things as correct data. But even when this happened, it was only shared among colleagues and not reported publicly.
According to Sato, numerous pilots have reported highly unusual encounters with what they described as cigar-shaped objects. During one such incident, a student in his fighter pilot course even lost control of his craft.
He said, "The aircraft started going crazy. The alarm rang to indicate that something was wrong with the machine. I saw a cigar-shaped object flying about 1,500 meters high from east to west. The anomaly continued until it disappeared."
For years, pilots in the Japanese military were instructed to remain silent about such incidents. But in September 2020, Japan's decades-long policy of secrecy and denial came to an end when Defense Minister Taro Kono tasked the Japanese Self-Defense Forces to make a visual recording of any encounter with an unexplained craft. Many believe this very public shift in policy was prompted by a meeting held 1 month earlier between Minister Kono and his U.S. counterpart. Defense Secretary Mark Esper.
That's a major development, I think, when you have close allies like the US and Japan openly speaking about the UFO issue and agreeing to cooperate. We've come so far in such a short amount of time.
The fact that Japan denied that there was UFO activity happening in their country, and now they're establishing the Japanese Space Operations Squadron, says to me that there clearly is something going on over the skies of Japan.
Ancient astronaut theorists suggest governments throughout the world are finally beginning to acknowledge that there may be objects in our skies that are not of this Earth. Ancient astronaut theorists suggest evidence of alien contact on these islands dates back thousands of years and can be found within the teachings of Shintoism. Shintoism is the primary religion of Japan, with over 107 million followers, and is designed around a set of ritual practices that connect present-day Japan to its ancient mystical past. At its center are celestial beings that, according to the Japanese people, still roam their islands to this day.
The term Shinto translates as the way of the kami, or the way of the gods. It's a tradition that has a millennia-long history in Japan. There are over 8 million kamis according to the Shinto tradition, and each one of them has its own particular personality traits, if you will. So in that sense, they are quite different from the notion of monotheistic God that we have in traditions that are most widespread in the West.
The kami are these celestial beings that are able to inhabit basically anything, from a human being to an animal and even inanimate objects. So on the one hand, they're these multi-dimensional beings, but then they also describe them as having come down from their celestial palace in the sky, which is called Takamagahara.
The celestial kami will come into the terrestrial world, our world, and they need a home. So they have these major shrines for these kami when they come into the world so that they can feel at home in the terrestrial world.
The Japanese archipelago is dotted with over 81,000 shrines that are devoted to the kami gods. And it's believed that these are houses or places where these extraterrestrial beings come to live when they're on Earth. The Japanese people will visit the shrines of the kami with the belief that they are actually praying to an extraterrestrial being who can fulfill their blessings.
Southern Ireland. Here, approximately 5 miles northwest of the small city of Cork, lies the Blarney Castle. Built more than 500 years ago, this nearly 90-foot-tall fortress houses the world-famous Blarney Stone, a relic that more than 300,000 people come to kiss each year.
It is not in a convenient location. It's in the castle wall, high up on the outside. So to kiss it, you've got to dangle over or sneak around so that you're really at some peril of falling a very great distance.
According to legend, it grants whoever kisses it the power to speak in an articulate and charismatic way and to flatter and blandish in any circumstance.
Here you have a stone that has been kissed and revered by probably millions of people. Blarney is the gift of gab, and so the idea is that somehow kissing this stone gives you the ability to talk better or to somehow amplify your verbal prowess.
Composed of a single block of bluestone, the same material used at Stonehenge, this stone relic's magical powers are widely renowned. But could a stone really have such power? One that could actually affect an individual's power of speech?
And the story is in the 15th century, Cormac McCarthy had a court case coming up, and he was concerned about this and called upon the goddess Cleana, the queen of the banshees, to help him find the right words and present a good case. She did. She said, listen, on your way to court, kiss the first stone you see, and you'll be eloquent. You'll find the words. And he did this. He went to court. He was very persuasive and won his case. On his way home, he picked up that rock and carried it back and had his workmen fashion it into a stone and set it into the wall of his castle, where it is still to be found.
When you look at Irish mythology as a whole, it starts to become pretty obvious that these people, such as Cleodna, were not ordinary Earthborn humans, but were in fact most likely extraterrestrial humans who came to the Earth and shared their technology. And Blarney, being the gift of gab, the gift of talking more eloquently, is something that may have been impregnated into the stone by an extraterrestrial technology using energetic means that we're not now aware of.
Is it possible, as ancient astronaut theorists suggest, that the Blarney Stone is actually evidence of some ancient and otherworldly power? Technology that helps to prove that ancient man was in direct contact with highly developed beings from another part of the galaxy. If so, might the character known in Irish folklore as the goddess Cleodna actually have been a celestial traveler? Perhaps more clues can be found by investigating another mysterious stone relic located just 160 miles away. County Meath, Ireland. On top of this mound, known as the Hill of Tara, lies the Lia Fall, or Stone of Destiny. One of 4 magical treasures said to have been brought to Ireland by mythical deities called the Tuatha de Danann.
The Lia Fall was a stone that was considered magical. All of the kings of Ireland up until the 5th century of the Common Era were said to have been crowned on this. It seemed to know who the true king was. They say if the true king put his feet up on it, it would roar with delight. It also had the power to give strength to the leader to help him solidify his rule, and in some cases to heal if that was necessary.
To mainstream scientists and archaeologists, this stone relic represents nothing more than the coronation stone of Ireland's ancient kings. But according to Irish mythology, the Hill of Tara was also a sacred dwelling place for the gods.
The Hill of Tara is a mound, and like many mounds in Ireland, like many of these Sidhe mounds, it is allegedly the entrance to the realm of the Sidhe, or these otherworldly people. The word Sidhe means both the people themselves, the otherworldly people, and the mounds in which they are said to dwell. And the Hill of Tara is allegedly an entrance to the otherworld.
The Hill of Tara is considered the sacred center of Ireland. The kings ruled from there for many centuries in ancient and in early history. And this was considered a sacred portal to another dimension, to the other world. So it had more than the authority of kingship, it had the authority of the supernatural.
In Irish mythology, the Tuatha de Danann were gods who had magical powers. They arrived from the lands of the West, these mythical lands of the gods. They were said to come in these dark clouds, which then landed in the mountains of Ireland. And when they came, there were 3 nights and 3 days of darkness. So you have to ask yourself what kind of power they had, and were they some kind of celestial visitors arriving in UFOs?
Maybe the extraterrestrials found a way to help society make advancements, including the selection of a virtuous leader. It's entirely possible that this stone is not just something that was coming out of a mythology, that the Lia Fall was an engineered device, that those leaders were able to be assessed by the stone and even maybe see into their destiny, see into their future.
Might the Lia Fall, a stone relic imbued with power like the Blarney Stone, really be evidence of highly advanced knowledge brought to mankind by the so-called gods? And do these sacred objects provide proof of ancient man's extraterrestrial connections? In Ireland, tales of the Sidhe, or fairy folk, have been passed down orally for more than 3,000 years. And in the 11th century, many of these stories were documented in a text called the Book of Invasions. According to this medieval account of Irish history and lore, thousands of years ago, a godlike race of beings called the Tuatha Danann landed on a mountaintop in Ireland. Often referred to as the Shining Ones, they are the ancestors of the Sidhe.
All of our stories relate back to the Tuatha Danann. For 3,000 years, at least, if not more, before that, all of the stories from mythology are all relating to Tuatha Danann. They were the Shining Ones.
There is a description in the mythological material in the early Irish literature of the Tuatha De Danann arriving in cloud ships, arriving in dark clouds, and landing on a mountain.
There was a long poem about the arrival of the Tuatha De Danann. One of the lines says, "The truth was not known beneath the sky of stars, whether they were of heaven or of earth."
The Tuatha De Danann are not human. They're demigods, and not immortal, not infallible, not like the gods of a monotheistic tradition of any of the Abrahamic religions.
The Tuatha De Danann were said to be luminous beings of large stature who wielded magical powers.
The Tuatha De Danann had an arsenal of very technological sounding weaponry. Lu of the Long Arm, for example, possessed a spear that when he threw it, he could give a voice command and it would automatically hit whatever target. Then he'd give another voice command and the spear would mysteriously return to him.
They had a cloak of invisibility. They had spears that shot flames out.
The ancient astronaut theory tries to look at ancient stories in which magic happens from a modern perspective and determine if that so-called magic really was some type of technology. Then one has to wonder, where did that technology come from? Well, there's only one answer to this, and that is extraterrestrials.
For ancient astronaut theorists, another intriguing aspect of these stories is how similar they are to accounts of sky gods found in other ancient cultures.
The stories of, let's call them aliens, descending from clouds on tops of mountains are straight across the cultural history of human beings. Let's start with one of the earliest ones, the descent on Mount Hermon in the Golan Heights.
The gods of Olympus in Greece as another example.
The fact that we have countless stories that are not just similar but identical leads me to think that perhaps all these ancient cultures were visited by the same extraterrestrials.
According to ancient astronaut theorists, the tradition that is most similar to the Tuatha De Danann is that of the Anunnaki, the sky gods described by the Sumerians, humankind's earliest known civilization.
In the main entrance stone and within the chamber itself, mainly zigzags and spirals, and most notably a triple spiral at the back of the main chamber within the actual site itself.
Newgrange was designed to honor the winter solstice, but according to a book published in 2012 called The Newgrange Sirius Mystery, the entire mound was also built to align with the star Sirius A in the night sky.
The declination of Sirius is the same as the winter solstice sunrise moving across the sky. And through the light box, which is a rectangular area just above the main entrance, this is where you'd witness not only the sunlight coming through, also later in the day, Sirius light coming through as well.